Okay, what are you saying, people, and welcome back to my channel. Now today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to trade false breakouts correctly. Now false breakouts are a very powerful pattern when you know how to use them correctly, and it's a pattern that I use quite often in my trading. In fact, I did take a trade using the same concept last week, which is on the screen now. And I will be going over this exact trade in full detail at the end of the video, so make sure you stay for all of that. But like I said, guys, I'm going to be teaching you how to trade false breakouts, how to spot them, know exactly what they are, and also what to avoid. So hope you enjoy the video. Let's get into it. Okay, so before we get into the nitty gritty about how to actually trade these patterns, I want to make sure you guys know exactly is what I'm talking about. So what are false breakouts? Now, a fake out is essentially when the market manipulates a specific price point, a key level or trend line to grab liquidity to move in a specific direction. So an example of this could be you have a downtrending market, for example, and say that same market starts to consolidate. We could get a sharp movement in one direction to grab liquidity to move in that continuous direction to the downside. So if we're expecting a breakout to the downside, you can see a manipulation to the upside to get that move to the downside. And what happens here is we have orders just above a key level of resistance where the market's consolidating, and then we could get a manipulation of that resistance, a break to the upside. People be trying to buy the breakout, or their stop loss is getting hit, and we could be seeing a nice dump to the downside and closing back underneath that same resistance, giving us that grab of liquidity. And after that, we could see the follow through to the downside and seeing that overall trend continue. Now these false breakouts again have variations. They don't all look the same. The example I just used to show you guys what a false breakout is very clear to illustrate my point. So you can clearly see the break and the break back in of that resistance and giving us the move to the downside. So it's a very clear example, but not all the time it will appear as clear as that. So there are different examples, such as with wicks, so we don't actually see a strong body close above a resistance or a support. Sometimes we just see a few wicks above or below a key level of resistance, and then we get the follow through to the upside. Or it doesn't even have to be a resistance or a support level. It could actually be a trend line. We can see a manipulation of the trend line, which again probably happens more often than support and resistance, because again they're very subjective when people draw them. But we can also get manipulations of them and seeing a close above or below a trend line just to see the market come back in and give you the bigger move to the upside or to the downside. And in addition to that, I also read somewhere that if you like this video and subscribe, you will automatically win your next trade. So I don't know how true that is, but I did hear it, and I would take my chances if I was you. So, you know, feel free to do that. But anyway, we're going to move on to how to actually trade these setups now with two examples from GPAUD and AUD-JPY. Okay, so welcome to the charts, people. So right now I want to learn how to actually trade these patterns. So to trade these patterns, it's quite simple. You want to wait for the false breakout to happen. Again, you don't know when it's going to happen or if it's going to happen, but if it does happen, once you do see that follow through, you want to be seeing a pullback into that structure that it broke through, looking for a retest, a continuation, some price action, and then to write it down or write it up depending which way you're trading. So I'm going to give you some examples here on GPAUD and AUD-JPY of what I'm talking about, and show you exactly how I trade them and how I recommend you should trade them as well. So we've got GPAUD here. You can see right now on a bearish trend here in the market. You can see we were pushing to the upside. We came down, made a lower low, lower high, lower low. So in a bearish trend here in the market, looking to see if we can get a continuation to the downside. You can see here we've got consolidation. So if I get the replay tool out, you can see here we've got consolidation, and here also we've got a really nice level in the market of resistance that we know people will be looking to short the market at. So if we're waiting to trade a false breakout, we want to see a break of this with a lot of momentum, then a spike back down. So that's the key aspect we're looking at here. A nice shoot of momentum to the upside, breaking through the level, and a good push down, breaking through the level as well with similar momentum. So you don't want to see corrective break or a weak break. You want to see a strong break and a strong break back in. That gives you a nice confirmation that a false breakout could be occurring, and you should be looking to capitalize on that opportunity. So nice resistance there in the market. Again, you want to see at least two or three tests of this level. 2 is fine, 3 is even better, but at least 2 or 3 tests of this level to confirm its level of resistance before looking for that breakout. So you can see really nice area of resistance. Then we get the manipulation here, a really nice push to the upside, big consolidation and a big push to the downside. So again, it's very important that you see that follow through. Don't just anticipate saying, yeah, we're gonna break back in and anticipate the false breakout, when we could actually have a breakout and see the continuation go further up. So now we've got that follow through down. We want to see the market continue down a little bit further, show us a bit more intent, and then when it comes back up to retest that same resistance. So as you can see here, we came and tested this support here, had a nice bounce. And if I just extend this across, you can see you come back up to the same resistance, test it, give you some price out, look to go short, again with your stop loss just above that resistance here in the market, few pips, a little bit of room, and again either target the low there, or if you want to target the continuation, which is what I do, look to capture a nice swing of that trend, so looking to continue that trend to the downside, maybe target a level below it or something that on the higher time frames that makes sense. And as you can see, if you just let this play out, you can see we got a nice move, didn't break it on the first time, came back again, and then we got the break to the downside. So again, it's really powerful because we're taking continuation pattern trade, so we're looking to continue that trade. So if we are correct and the pattern does work, we do normally get a big move in the market, you know, 100, 150, maybe even 200 pips, depending on what pair you're trading, but we do get those bigger moves in the market. So really powerful tool there. Going to jump to AUDJPY for our second example now. Okay, so over to AUDJPY here on the 5-day time frame. Again, we have a really nice setup here for a false breakout, looking to continue that bullish trend. So if I get the replay tool out, you can see here we're in a really nice bullish trend here. The market's making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So we already know that we're looking for that long opportunity to carry this trend to the upside. So here you can see we already have two tests of this support here in the market, but just extend that across. See test there, nice bounce again. So here we can wait for manipulation and then wait to take that trade higher. So again, as you can see here, really nice intent to break through that support there. So again, false breakouts, a lot of people could be looking to short that on the breakout, or people looking to buy it from here would have been stopped out on that candle. And then here's the important thing, we see that impulsive move back up, closing back above our support or our resistance, obviously in this case support. And then if you just extend this across, waiting for that retest, and then we get the retest, again wait for your price action, look to enter the trade. Again, this happens on all time frames, so not just the H4, all the way down to the minute time frame, all the way up to the monthly. So again, depending on what time frame you look to trade, it doesn't really matter. You do find these throughout all the time frames. So again, stop loss just below here. Obviously you can have a stop loss below that wick there in the market, or that candle in the market. Bit more conservative, I prefer to have mine slightly closer, because again it does normally work out that way anyway. So again, maximize your risk and reward. Again, either target the highs or new highs depending on what you're looking to trade there in the market. And again, if you just click play, again the market plays out very well there in the market. And again, like I said, because these are continuation patterns, so if you are correct and the pattern does play out correctly, you know, you can be in for a move 100, 200 pips and really milk the amount of pips out there in that trade. So again, really powerful tool when you use it correctly and when you use it in the right direction as well. Okay, so some of you are probably thinking that the setup that I'm showing you right now looks a lot like the head and shoulders pattern, and that's because essentially that's what head and shoulders pattern is. It's a false breakout. In the head and shoulders pattern, we've got one shoulder, the left shoulder, creating a resistance. Then we have the impulsive break of that resistance, taking out those orders, giving us the false breakout, and then we see the price come back down, retest that same area, having that pullback, the retest, and after that we see the follow through of that pattern. So that's essentially what we are trading. But the edge that we have over everyone else is that everyone else is just blindly trading these patterns and not really thinking about what they mean and also how to really get the best out of them. If you just use a head and shoulders pattern wherever you look in the market, it's not going to really end up that well for you, because most of the time you're just making things up as you go along and just saying, oh, there's a shoulder there, there's a head, there's a shoulder, let me short the pattern, when it really hasn't really formed yet. So now that we've got an edge because we understand what it is, what we're trading, and also how to trade it. And to really get the best out of these patterns, you want to be focusing on the high areas of interest. So key levels, key trend lines, multi-time frame analysis, focusing on areas where you know the market is consolidating a lot and there's a key level of resistance that you know a lot of people will be focusing on putting their shorts at, or key level of support, you know, everyone's going to be focused to put their longs at. if you just wait to see a manipulation of these levels, which often does happen majority of the time, not all the time, but majority of the time it does happen. If you just wait for that manipulation, see if you can find that pullback. If you can, look for those shorts or those longs, depending on which direction you're trading in, and really take advantage of that. And that gives you an edge over everyone else who's just simply looking at the resistance, looking to short it, or everyone's looking to buy at that support. It gives you an edge over them, and that's all we want at the end of the day, is an edge in the market. But let's move on to my USD CAD trade, which I took last week. Again, I'm going to show you a full breakdown of how that trade went through, obviously show how we incorporated things that we learned today into that same trade, and also just show you where I put my entry, stop loss, and where I was looking to target. So a quick run through that trade coming up now. Okay, so I'm going to start with the daily time frame for this trade and work my way down to the entry time frame, show you guys how it played out and why I entered, where I put my stop losses, and just how this trade played out. So we've got USD CAD here on the daily time frame, and as you can see, this market is in a very bearish trend, and it has been for the past few weeks now. And I've just been looking to continue that trend to the downside, back down to these lows here. As you can see, it's gone a lot further, but again, we were looking for those shorting opportunities because we knew from the daily chart, the daily time frame, that again, we're in that bearish market, so just looking to continue that trend. So on the H4 time frame, I did spot this trend line here in the market. As you can see, the market's making lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, and coming into this level, we saw this big push to the upside and big push to the downside. So I knew after looking at that, of course, I wasn't looking at this trend line saying I hope we get a false breakout like this to give me a nice entry. It just happened. We saw the big push to the upside, and I believe some news came in for CAD, and we saw this big dump to the downside. So again, treating that as a big false breakout, which it was, of that trend line. So I was waiting for a retest to look for the continuation to the downside. So we know we want to be looking for shorts from the daily time frame. We've got this manipulation of this trend line here in the market, again confusing a lot of people, and we're still looking for those shorts to the downside. So jumping with all that information onto the hourly time frame, we can look for our entry. So we had this big push to the downside, the market started to consolidate, so I was waiting for a clear entry to come through for this pair. We had this counter trend line here on the H1. As you can see, price has made higher highs, higher lows here, pushing to the upside, still treating this just as a pullback. So test, 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 have this break of the trend line. As we came back up to retest that H4 trend line, retest the H1 trend line, and also just come and test this resistance here on the hourly time frame. I knew that I had some nice confluences there meeting up together in order to get a nice entry on this pair. So on the H1 is where I entered on that engulfing candle there. My stop loss just above all of this, because I know if price was to break this again, my my trade setup will probably be invalid, and I'll just exit the trade and look for something else later on. So that's why I entered. Stop loss just above there. And again, if I jump back to the 4H, looking to target those lows all the way down here, because I knew again the trend is very much to the downside from the higher time frame. So as you can see, it did play out quite well. If I go on the hourly time frame, you can see playing out really well, push to the downside, bit of consolidation here, then we've got the continuation, and all that happened was just a big manipulation of that trend line. We got the retest, so like I told you guys earlier, wait for the retest of the structure. It broke either a resistance or a support, or in this case a trend line, and just wait for the continuation to the downside, and we saw that follow through. And again, just combining different aspects, different technical tools together to create you the best trading opportunity. So here I use multi-time frame analysis, trend line breaks on multiple time frames, key levels, and just understanding the overall structure of the trend. So just combining that all together with price action can give you a really powerful trading opportunities, and if you know how to capitalize on them, you can really make it far in this market. Okay, so that is the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed that and found it useful. Again, like always, guys, if you have any questions, just let me know, drop it down in the comments. Or if you want something to be explained a little bit more further, a little bit more detail, just let me know and I'll help you out down in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also drop a like if you're feeling generous and you like the content on this channel. It really does help me out. But again, thanks guys for watching, and until the next one, I'll see you guys later.